Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to another Opposition View show where we are looking ahead to our next game. We're back at Goodison Park against Newcastle United, and to look ahead to Tuesday's game, we've got Alex Hurst to join us from the True Faith podcast and fanzine, and he's also the chair of the Newcastle Supporters Trust. So, a very warm welcome to the show, Alex. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm tremendous, mate. But particularly after totally undeserved 94th minute winner yesterday against Everton, it always makes Sunday morning a little bit better, doesn't it? Winning games.
Oh yeah, it's a great feeling to get a late goal, especially like you say when you don't deserve it. I think I can recall a game where we got a last-minute winner against you guys not long ago, and we really didn't deserve it.
Yeah, I remember that one as well. Yeah, 2015, I think.
Yeah, Boxing Day. I remember it way too well. Yeah, but so it's good to hear you're doing so well. Obviously, we're going to start with your recent form. The late win against Chelsea last night took you level on points with Everton. Other than that, it's been quite a mixed bag of late. How have you found this season so far?
It's been a really hard season to try and justify or analyse, because on one hand you had pretty much, I'd say, most fans and most pundits as well had United tipped on for relegation this season. Steve Bruce came in. I think he admitted in an interview for Sky at the weekend that he thought it was a wind-up when his agent gave him a call. We thought it was a wind-up as well when media reports struck, but he has by far exceeded the expectations of pretty much everyone I know. Now, that doesn't mean that it's been a good season. It just means he's done much better than the terrible job people thought he was going to do, and credit to him for that. 8 wins, 29 points, same as Everton, like you say, from the same number of games. And he didn't get a pre-season, and the players who did come in the summer, he had no say over. So it's been good from that respect, and there's been some good wins. It's been mostly dreadful to watch, and I don't think anyone could deny that. And it's one of those things we're going to talk about on our post-Chelsea podcast today. Are we lucky, or if it keeps happening, can it be luck? Where, although like yesterday was a good example, where Chelsea dominated the game, the goalkeeper hasn't really had to make a save of note. So even though we have the lowest percentage of the ball in the Premier League by some distance, an average of 32% per game, which is so low. But it's very much a continuation under the previous manager, where it's not how much of the ball you have, it's what you do with it. And we are a clinical side. We don't create lots, but when we do create, we tend to take the chances. And there's only so many times even people like myself can call that lucky, because that's what I've been doing all season. But you've got to give credit where it's due to the players. And Isaac Hayden scores yesterday, and he was playing right back. And I think we've had more defenders score for us than any other team, mostly from set pieces. And again, we've labelled that as lucky. But if you're a danger from set pieces, you have to be good at them. So there's a lot to criticise about Newcastle, and people do, but there's also some fairly positive stuff there. And we've got a chance, the game after this one against Everton, against Oxford in next week's FA Cup, to get past the FA Cup fourth round for the first time under Mike Ashley. And that would be massive for the whole region, because we've been so bad in the Cups, and the club back in 2014 admitting they weren't a priority really, really killed a lot of fans off from following the team. So yeah, it's a big week for us with you guys obviously level on points with us in the league, and then the FA Cup at the weekend. And it was a great start of the week with the win yesterday.
Definitely. Well, I think that was the next question I was going to ask you. Obviously, a lot of fans were underwhelmed when Steve Bruce was named as Benitez's successor, but his record so far is actually pretty similar. It seems as though he is going to keep you well clear of trouble. Are you a bit happier than maybe you thought you were going to be, but how it's panned out? And maybe is it a chance, maybe will you kick on from here, maybe?
Well, that's the big question, is it? And that's what, Steve Bruce has still got his critics, and that's what his critics would say. And it's kind of like the whole point of this season. We've spent 2 seasons before this one back in the Premier League now after relegation. You shouldn't be in relegation battles season after season. And I think, a lot of pessimistic fans would have said that the aim of this season was to just not be in a relegation battle, because that's progress. And like most fans, as long as you can see progress, most fans will take that. And so far, we didn't win a game till the start of October, but at this point last year, we're well and truly in a relegation battle. Now, a lot of pundits keep putting to Steve Bruce, you're 8 points ahead of where you were this point last season. That's a bit of a falsehood, because the second half of last season we were the 7th best team in the Premier League after Boxing Day, I think. So, you can only use that as a positive if you keep up with it every single game, because we started winning lots of games at this point last season after January. So it is much better than we thought. There's been some real low moments, and we lost 2-0 at Aston Villa, who are pretty dreadful, and they battered us really. That was a low moment, and obviously losing 5-0, and then 3-0 Leicester with 4 players going off injured after 55 minutes on New Year's Day.
I watched that game, and I was thinking we are going to touch on the injury record at the moment, because we're not doing much better ourselves in terms of injuries. So it's going to be a very interesting game on Tuesday night. We're going to see some very depleted squads coming up against each other.
Yeah,
well,
definitely.
That Leicester game was like took the biscuit, didn't it? I've never seen a team have so much bad luck in one game.
Yeah, no, it was. So there's been some lows, and there's been some really good results. And I mean, we've beaten Tottenham, Man United, Chelsea. We took a draw against Man City, and I think we've taken 15 points against 15 points out of 12 games against teams against the top 7. So that's pretty good. That's nearly half our points this season against sides above us. I suppose it's the most disappointing results have come against the likes of Villa and Norwich and stuff like that. But we've got all those teams to play second half of the season. We've got Villa and Norwich to play at home. We've got a few easy games at home coming up. So there's definitely, to answer your original question, I think there's a lot of fans, if Steve Bruce could push on, maybe like you guys are looking for, and cement a top 10 finish, that would be a huge first season for him in charge of the club.
I think the question has to be then, what the ambition once. I think you won't get relegated this season. I'm pretty confident about that. You'll be staying well clear of trouble under Steve Bruce. But what's the ambition for next season, like moving forward?
Yeah, that's a massive question for the club, isn't it? And they did spend big money in the summer. They didn't spend as much as they could have. We're kind of the opposite of Everton at the minute, where we post these huge financial profits every year, and fans get hugely frustrated that money isn't reinvested in stuff like the training ground or the stadium, things that Everton are doing. But they spent about 80 million in the summer, though we did sell Jose Perez for 30 million, which, even though Perez had his critics, he had a release clause, and he should have gone for more, really, because I think he was involved in half-hour goals last season, and he starts for a team every single week up front who are going for a Champions League place. They tend to cost more than 30 million, those kind of players, particularly if you're proven in the Premier League.
Certainly.
So the club have got a few quid to spend. And I think what fans will want to see next season is a push on to maybe what Wolves are doing now. The most important thing for Newcastle fans this season is a cup run. If Steve Bruce can get us to a semi-final or a quarter-final and keep us up, I think a lot of fans will be content with that. I think looking ahead, like you say, the issue for Steve Bruce is we cannot play with 30% of the ball forever. Like, you will lose games doing it, and we've been waiting for it to happen all season. And he says that the players that he's got don't want to change formation, which is quite an honest thing for a manager to say. He would like to change to 4 at the back and 4 midfielders, 2 strikers, and the players just won't do it. So if you're going to play with 3 centre backs like we do, and you're going to play with wing backs and only 2 centre midfielders, you have to play on the counter attack. And I suppose that transition for him is going to be the most difficult thing. Does
that pose questions, do you think, to the board? Maybe, like, do they need to back him, let him get his own personnel in that will play a 4-4-2 formation?
Definitely. Newcastle have got 5 or 6 players out of contract this summer, and 7 or 8 players out of contract the season after. So it's a massive summer, assuming all goes well this season and he's still in the job and we don't get relegated, which, like you say, looks unlikely. It's they're going to have to move a lot of players on and bring a lot of new players in, but the money should be there to do that. A lot of people do, like, it's not just Newcastle, it's football fans in general, don't you? You do kind of amateur mathematics, saying, well, we brought in 180 million. The wage bill was the 3rd lowest in the league last season. It's 73 million or whatever it was. That leaves, the running of the club cost 20 million. We should have 100 million to spend. Then it's the same again this season, and we spent 80 million this summer, but 30 million came in, and blah, blah, blah. So fans look at that and think, well, we should have one of the biggest transfer budgets in the league to spend next summer. So, that should and could are the words you can't use about Newcastle United, unfortunately, because the ownership are just as likely to turn around and say, well, actually, we've got, just say we'll have a good, rest of the season. We've got nearly 50 points. We only need 1 or 2, and we can get 50 points again because the main focus is staying in the Premier League, and that's what fans don't want to see. They want to see us push on, and I just think progress every season is fair enough. I think even if we're finished with a similar points total to last season, which is 44, if we could beat that this season and then beat it again next season, I think a lot of people would be happy. I don't mean by 1 or 2 points. I mean, taking serious leaps up the league, and next season's success would be not going 2 months without win until October and then having to climb back up the league. Because our form since October is actually pretty good. I think it's 4th or 5th best in the league, and it is an inconsistent league. You've only got, unfortunately for you guys, one team who are supremely consistent and win all their games. But I think that would be progress next season for getting in the top 10.
Definitely, but what I was going to ask is, obviously there's always been a lot of question marks over Mike Ashley. What's the current sort of standpoint on Mike Ashley from the general fan base?
He will never ever win the fans back. He's done too much damage. He just needs to sell the club. He has this massive asking price for the club. If we were sold for the money he's asking, it would make us one of the most expensive clubs in Premier League history. So he just needs to go. Whatever good happens from now, there's been so many fans walked away from the club because of him, who will never go back. He's proven time after time that he just doesn't get it. He doesn't understand it. He said it himself. He says he doesn't understand football. That's an honest admission, and I don't think we needed to hear that to know it, because we've all seen what he's done.
But why does he continue to maintain control of the club? I know he wants to sell for a big price, but if no one's going to sell, and he's clearly not taking enough of an interest in it, why is he still there?
That's a question only he can answer. People think that he enjoys it. People think it's it's like if you're a billionaire like him and you've got all these things going on, it's just another thing that you control in your life that's very important. And he, maybe enjoys being able to turn up once or twice a season. Maybe he enjoys it. I don't know. Maybe, a lot of fans would say that advertising his main business, which is his sports brand. I'll not say the name. They give him some free advertising.
All over the arena, isn't it? Every wall to wall in that stadium, I've seen the signs.
And that's free worldwide advertising, isn't it? You probably couldn't pay for that to be broadcast into the homes of, I don't know what, do they say 300 million people watch the Premier League each weekend? That's mad. And since he bought Newcastle, they've opened shops in every European country. They've opened shops in Singapore. They've opened shops in Hong Kong. Do you know what I mean? So this global brand he's built for that shop goes hand in hand with Newcastle United. That might not be it. That's just what a lot of fans say, but I can't think of too many other reasons why.
It's a cynical view, but it's very, very understandable. And at the same time, I'm taking a bit of a cynical view here, maybe. My idea is that, obviously, you say we're wondering why he stays. You've just mentioned that, obviously, Newcastle are turning a pretty good profit. Do you think he's creaming some of that off?
That's the accusation by a lot of fans. I'm not so sure myself. Now, there's creaming it off, and that's what a lot of people think, and there's repaying himself. So when he bought the club in 2007, it was a mess. I don't think anyone can deny that. There'd been years of, we were a Champions League club at the start of the last decade, and after that, Graham Souness come in and did probably the worst job I've ever seen of any football manager ever.
That was atrocious.
Yeah, dismantling an excellent squad because he didn't get on with them, and buying, it wasn't Graham Souness, but Jeremy got released by Chelsea in 2007. We'll put him on 80 grand a week, which would make him the highest paid player at our club right now. It's just mental, the stuff that was going on, which wasn't Ashley's fault. So he came in and he paid off all the debt, and then when we were relegated twice under him, he basically underwrote those campaigns to get promoted back. So the clubs ended up owing him like 140 million quid. So last summer, he took back 30 million quid, and that's a huge amount of money to come out of a team's transfer budget, isn't it? 30 million
Absolutely, yeah.
And you can understand why Rafa Benitez was just so angry all the time, because they never told him they were going to do this when he signed. It was supposed to be, Ashley's always said every penny the club generates goes back into the club. Well, that's bollocks, because he took 30 million out.
Obviously not.
Yeah, so that is a loan that's owed to him. The issue fans have is, one, why did you write that money off? It was your fault we got relegated. And two, if you are going to take it off, be honest about it. We only find out about these things like 12 months later when the accounts come out. So and it creates this like superstition, not superstition, sorry, this accusation of taking money out. At the Supporters Trust, the club have actually invited us to go through the accounts from his time at the club to prove he hasn't been taking any money. So that to me, they wouldn't have done that. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing the accounts. Not that I'm an accountant, but we will hire someone who can go through them. That's a little bit of transparency from the club. That's most welcome, to be honest with you, because it should put that
Been a long time
to bed
coming.
once and for all. Yeah, that should put that he's nicking money out of the club. But there's I don't want to get into it too much, Doug. I'm sure your listeners, might not be that interested. But there are lots of ways in which Sports Direct, in particular, have a far advantageous commercial relationship with Newcastle United than the club do with them. Technically the club shop, when you buy from the club, you buy from Sports Direct, things like that. So stuff about warehouses in Newcastle having to rent warehouses for £1 million from Sports Direct. So I don't think there is money going from the football club into Mike Ashley, but I think he maximises the benefit for Sports Direct rather than Newcastle United. Just a personal opinion, though.
Without a doubt. No, I agree with you about that. I'm probably even more opinionated on it than you are in that respect, Ben, because I'm quite adamant that that's what goes on. I don't know about you.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Well, anyway, back to the football anyway. We're going to look ahead to the game now, and there may be a little to separate both sides in the league at present, but if you could take one Everton player to put in the current team, who would it be? Granted, there's a lot of injuries, but who would you take?
I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin really impressed me at St James's Park when we played recently. He's kind of got everything. He's quick, he's strong, he's a good finisher, and you know what? I know he's raw. I don't watch him as much as you will, so I don't know how popular he is with Everton fans. But the fact that he's a local lad, and we've got Joe Linton, who allegedly cost £40 million. I'm really not sure about that.
No, I always thought Joe Linton was very similar to Calvert-Lewin in terms of his physicality and his. I always thought he had very similar attributes. So what's sort of gone wrong with Joe Linton?
I think there's two things. One, it's confidence, and two, it's very much it's a young lad who hasn't played in English football before, who is learning his trade whilst playing up front by himself, often against 2 or 3 centre backs, and he's come from a team in Germany where he plays the left of a 4-3-3, and who are one of the better teams in the league. And coming from Newcastle, who just don't have the ball, he's having to learn on the job, and it's just not going well. And he's clearly a good footballer. I don't think too many people can doubt. But is he a target man in the Premier League? Absolutely not. And he's having to learn to be a target man, whilst the pressure's on him to score goals. To be fair to him, he hit the bar yesterday, and he looked better. So no issues with him in that respect. But he keeps trying. He's a grafter. It's going really, really badly. I can't deny it. He's hopeless at the minute.
But yeah, obviously I think he'd probably fancy his chances coming up against Everton, because players who never score always seem to score against us in a similar way that I think they do against you guys.
Yeah, definitely. He got a goal against Rochdale in midweek, and that was much needed for his confidence. But yeah, he needs a goal in the Premier League, so I hope it can be Tuesday. So
probably will be, knowing the fact that if a player's struggling to score, we always seem to be very obliging.
Yeah, yeah, we're the same. I don't think we're too different in that respect.
Like I say, there's little to separate both teams in many respects at the moment. And like I was saying, we've both got horrific injury records at the moment. Many key players of both teams are out injured. So going into this game, what sort of lineup can we expect to see from Newcastle?
I think it'll be identical to what we saw yesterday, to be honest with you, for Newcastle. So it'll be 3 centre-backs. Jamal Lascelles has just come back. Massive for us, that, him come back, the captain. And he'll be flanked by Kieran Clark, who's been excellent, and Federico Fernandez. And then you've got 2 fullbacks. Jetro Willems is probably out for the season now. Another one who went off on Saturday, which is just, he's had a really good first season.
He was very good against us at St James's.
Yeah, it's a massive blow to lose him. And Matt Ritchie's been out most of the season, and that's his position now, left fullback. And Matt Ritchie's a really good player and a bit of a Newcastle legend for what he's done in the past 3-4 seasons. But Williams is probably just maybe in a little bit of a different league. Plus, he's a natural fullback. So that's a massive loss. And we don't really have a right back. We played a lad called Emil Kraft, who's just
I
rubbish.
know him.
He's just not good enough for this level. But they bought him in the summer for $5 million. There's only, in the Premier League, if you buy a player for $5 million, you're going to get a $5 million player, aren't you?
Which is the equivalent of like a $1 million player like 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. It's not his fault. He's just not good enough. He got taken off yesterday. He wasn't injured. He was just having a mess. So I don't know whether he'll stick with him. We've got Yedlin and Manquillo, both good players, both injured at the minute. He might play Isaac Hayden at right back because Hayden started yesterday in centre midfield and moved to right back and then got the winner when he was playing right back from a set piece. And then the big for us was the return of Saint-Maximin, who is by far and away our best player. He looked really rusty yesterday. I mean, he'd been out for 2 months and hasn't played a minute since. I don't know whether this will be a bit much for him. 2 games in 4 days, having just come back from another hamstring injury. Knowing Bruce, though, I think he knows how important he is to us. Our record with Saint-Maximin, the team, is excellent. We've already lost twice or something with him actually playing for this season, and our record without him is terrible. We're like one of the worst teams in the league, so he's so important. You might keep him in. You'll see Miguel Almiron, who has been sensational the last 2 months. I think he's got 4 goals in 7 games, and although he didn't really have any chances yesterday against Chelsea, he was still one of the best players. Won the ball back constantly, and then you'll see Joe Linton up front. So much the same as Saturday, and I can't quite remember who played against you at our place.
Andy Carroll gave us a lot of grief. Is he available?
Well, he missed yesterday with a very minor injury, so I don't know whether he missed yesterday with an eye on Tuesday. He seems to get injured, warming up, but at least he has played a lot more than we thought he would this season. Hasn't scored though, but he's what Andy Carroll is. He's a brilliant option from the bench. I was really surprised to see him start against Everton because he doesn't have the same impact as he does maybe for 20 minutes, half an hour. But he had a good game. He got the assist for the goal. He also gave the ball away on the halfway line to cost with the game. But yeah, I hope he's back tomorrow and he provides an option from the bench. And it's something that a lot of modern Premier League centre backs just haven't experienced before.
That's a good point, actually. It's a very different Premier League to maybe when Carroll first started out in like sort of 2006.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, anyway, going into the game at Goodison, what's your score prediction?
Well, I never would have predicted. I mean, we had Wolves away, Chelsea at home, Everton away, and a lot of people were saying 0 points and think we'll be in the relegation picture. And we've got 4 points out of that. Our record at Goodison is poor. For some reason, we only played Everton on a Tuesday night. Does me head in.
I've noticed this. I can't remember the last time we played you guys on a weekend at home.
Yeah, it's mental, isn't it? You can't get back to Newcastle afterwards unless you get a coach. There are no trains that do that. So it's normally I go to all the away games, but taking like 2 days off work again through the week, it's for us, it's one of our closest games. The fact that the Premier League is now made up of so many London and South Coast clubs and that, it's actually like, Man United and Man City and Liverpool, Everton and Burnley are quite close for us. So I'm disappointed that I can't make it, but I think that they're 2 quite similar teams. I know, and obviously you've got the new manager. So I'll go with I'll have to go with a draw, but I'll go 0-0.
I was going to go with a draw myself. It's we're usually okay at home. Our home record's pretty good. I'd like to think we might win, but obviously you guys are very, very solid at the back. I'll be optimistic. I'll say we'll edge it 2-1. Yeah, it's hard to say because obviously we don't really. We tend to do quite well at home, but you guys don't concede many, so it's a hard decision, really. Maybe 1-0, actually. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, like you say.
Yeah. Well, we'll know soon enough.
Yeah, exactly, but we'll always end anyway. We end on a bit of a light note. A little light-hearted question: what's your favourite film and why?
My favourite film and why? I wasn't expecting that.
No one ever expects it. It's a lovely little curveball at the end of these shows.
I think I'll have to go back to the original Jurassic Park, the first one. Don't know, it's just an absolute classic. It's not too complicated. It's not too hard to follow. It's not too hard to watch. You could put it You could put it on at any time with anyone, and they'll enjoy it. And although the graphics are looking a bit outdated now, it's still not bad for 1994. And yeah, just an all round classic, easy watching film for me.
Timeless. So there you have it. That's all we've got time for today, but plenty to look ahead to anyway. This is 7:30 kickoff on a Tuesday night, as Alex has pretty much bemoaned just there. So be sure to check out all our great content in the build-up and beyond. I'll be joining Alex as well on the True Fate podcast later today, so definitely check that out as well. And give Alex a follow on Twitter using the handle below. As always, guys, give this video a comment, a like, and a subscribe. And all that's left to say is thanks, Alex, for joining me on this show.
Anytime, mate. Pleasure to speak to you.
Brilliant, mate. Cheers for that. And thank you guys as well for watching on the Toffee Blues.